A toy sits untouched in the corner for 3 months. Nobody plays with it. Nobody even looks at it. Then one day, your younger child picks it up. Within seconds, your older child is screaming that it's theirs. This makes no sense on the surface. The toy was forgotten. It had no value 5 minutes ago. So why does it suddenly become the most important object in the house the moment someone else holds it? The real answer has almost nothing to do with the toy. Your children are not fighting over plastic. They are responding to something far older and far stranger, something wired into the human brain long before toys, long before siblings shared a house, long before any of this was about parenting at all. To understand it, you have to look at what happens the instant ownership feels threatened. In the late 1980s, psychologist Daniel Kahneman ran a now famous experiment. He gave half a group of people a coffee mug. He asked the other half how much they'd pay for that same mug. The people who already owned the mug demanded almost twice as much money to give it up as the other group was willing to pay to get one. Nothing about the mug had changed. Only ownership had changed. And ownership, even brief, even imagined, rewires how valuable something feels. This is called loss aversion. Your brain treats losing something as far more painful than gaining that same thing feels good. Not a little more painful. Roughly twice as painful, according to Kahneman's research. Now picture a 4-year-old. Their sibling picks up a toy they hadn't touched in weeks. In that exact moment, their brain doesn't calculate whether they actually wanted it. It calculates something else entirely. It calculates loss. The toy was theirs. Now it might not be. That shift, even imagined, even unfair, even completely irrational, triggers the same ancient alarm system that once protected food, shelter, and survival resources. Your child isn't being dramatic. Their brain is doing exactly what brains have done for hundreds of thousands of years. But there's a second layer underneath this, one that goes even deeper than psychology and into evolution itself. Biologist Robert Trivers proposed something called parent-offspring conflict theory in the 1970s. His idea was simple and a little uncomfortable. Siblings compete, biologically, for a limited resource. That resource is parental investment. Time. Attention. Affection. Energy. In nature, this competition is often intense and sometimes brutal. In your living room, it looks like 2 kids screaming over a plastic dinosaur. Here's the part that reframes everything. The toy was never really the prize. The toy is a stand-in. What your children are actually fighting over is your attention. Think about when these fights usually happen. Often it's not in a quiet, calm moment. It's when you're on the phone. It's when you're cooking dinner. It's when your attention is somewhere else. Your children's brains have learned, often without either of you realizing it, that conflict pulls focus. A fight is loud. A fight gets noticed. A fight, even an angry one, is still attention, and to a developing brain, attention often reads as safety. This doesn't mean your children are scheming. They're not plotting anything. This is happening far below conscious thought, in systems built for connection and survival long before words existed. Developmental psychologist Judy Dunn spent decades studying sibling relationships up close, observing real families in their homes rather than in labs. Her research found something parents often miss. Sibling conflict isn't separate from sibling closeness. It's tangled up with it. The same siblings who scream over a toy at 4 p.m. are often the ones comforting each other at bedtime. Dunn's work suggested that rivalry and attachment aren't opposites. They're 2 expressions of the same intense bond. Why would conflict and closeness be linked like that? Because siblings are each other's first social training ground. Before friendships. Before classrooms. Before any of the outside world, siblings are where children first learn negotiation, jealousy, sharing, apology, and forgiveness, often within the same 10 minutes. That's a lot of emotional weight for 2 kids and 1 toy to carry. So when your older child screams that the forgotten toy is theirs, several things are happening at once. Their brain is registering loss, the same loss aversion Kahneman documented in adults arguing over coffee mugs. Their evolutionary wiring is registering competition for your attention, the dynamic Trivers described decades before either of your children existed. And their relationship with their sibling, tangled and intense the way Dunn observed in real families, is working itself out in real time, right there on your living room floor. None of this means the fighting feels good to watch. It usually feels like chaos. But chaos with a pattern is very different from chaos with no explanation at all. Here's the part that might surprise you most. The toy itself often becomes irrelevant within minutes of the fight ending. Ask a child 5 minutes after a screaming match what they actually wanted to do with the toy, and many can't answer. They didn't want to play with it. They wanted to not lose it. That distinction matters enormously. Wanting something and refusing to lose it are two completely different brain processes, even though from the outside they look identical. This is why simply giving in and handing the toy to the upset child rarely solves anything long-term. It treats the object as the problem. But the object was never the problem. It addresses loss aversion in the moment without addressing the deeper hunger underneath it, which is connection. What actually helps, according to researchers like Lori Kramer, who has spent years studying sibling conflict and designing programs to reduce it, isn't removing the trigger. It's giving children language for what's happening underneath. Naming the feeling. Acknowledging that losing something, even something they didn't want 5 minutes ago, genuinely stings. Validation, it turns out, calms the nervous system faster than resolution does. And here's where this stops being just a story about children. Adults do this too. You feel it when a coworker gets praised for a project you weren't even sure you wanted credit for. You feel it when an old friend suddenly seems interested in someone you used to date. You feel it scrolling through someone else's vacation photos for a trip you never planned to take. The object changes. The mechanism doesn't. Loss aversion doesn't disappear at 18. It just gets quieter, more socially acceptable, easier to disguise as logic instead of jealousy. Somewhere inside every adult is still that 4-year-old, recalculating value the instant something feels like it might slip away. So the next time a forgotten toy sparks a screaming match in your house, you're not watching irrational chaos. You're watching loss aversion, evolutionary competition for attention, and the tangled intensity of sibling attachment, all colliding in real time over a piece of plastic neither child particularly wanted an hour ago. The toy was never the point. It never is.